Hello, I'm Jake from Cell Farm, and today we're going to be selling you some cell organelles and other parts so you can be able to build your own cell at home. First, we have the endoplasmic reticulum, also known as the ER. There is rough ER and smooth ER. The rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and it makes proteins and sends them to other parts of the cell. The smooth ER synthesizes oils, fats, and phospholipids. It also breaks down toxins and contains enzymes for other metabolic processes. Next, we have cytosol, which is the stuff that fills the cell. It has various materials dissolved into it, such as potassium, calcium, bicarbonate, chlorides, amino acids, and some other stuff. It includes the organelles within it, but they're not a part of the cytosol. Next, we have the endoplasmic reticulum, which is like the UPS of the cell. It's a flat stack of membranes that marks, packages, and sends out proteins it receives from the endoplasmic reticulum to other parts of the cell. Next, we have the cell farm plasma membrane, which is the best in the business. This plasma membrane encapsulates everything in your cell. It is made of a phospholipid bilayer, which is semi-permeable, only allowing the materials you want into your cell. Now we move on to the cytoskeleton, which comes in three sizes. First, we have the large microfilaments, which are hollow to transport things. They help with the overall structure of the cell and are used in cilia, which we'll be selling you later. Next, we have the intermediate filaments, which, you guessed it, are intermediate. They also help with the overall structure of the cell, but are mostly used in anchoring the cell organelles in place. Lastly, we have the tiny microfilaments, which are used in pseudopodia, which means fake feet, which helps move the cell around other things. They're also used in cleavage furrow, which creates a belt around a cell as it's about to separate. And lastly, it is used in muscle contraction. Now we're on to mitochondria, which make the ATP of the cell to give it energy. It is a self-contained cell that has its own DNA. Cell farm mitochondria is better than the others because it has more folds in it. What does this mean? This means it has more surface area, so it can produce more ATP with less mitochondria. If you want your cell to make its own food, then you're going to want chloroplast, which creates its own sugar through photosynthesis. The grana and the stroma in the cell, the stroma is little packets of chlorophyll, which takes light energy, converts it into chemical energy in the sugar, and is surrounded by stroma, which is liquid. Our top quality cell farm stroma takes this light energy, produces the sugar, which is then used by the mitochondria to produce energy. Now we are on to the genetic material, which comes in two forms. It comes in double-stranded DNA, which is all rolled up in two strands, kind of goes down like that, and single-stranded RNA, which is used to make proteins in eukaryotic cells, or sometimes viruses can inject that into its host cells. Now, additionally, this DNA comes in two forms. It comes in circular, bacterial-style DNA, which is kind of all wound up all willy-nilly in the cell, and it comes in chromosome form, which are more found in eukaryotic cells stored in the nucleus. Now, this genetic information has two possibilities in prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. It creates proteins and controls the cell functions, and it also passes the genetic material on to daughter cells so it can reproduce and the cell's life and species can go on. Now we are on to flagellum, and cilia. Flagellum is this kind of long strand that wiggles about that aids in cell movement, the kind of thing that you would see in, say, things like sperm that need to move. We also have cilia, which are kind of smaller, a bunch of smaller flagellum that also aid in movement or wait for a stimulus. It uses chemical reactions on each side, so it kind of goes crink, 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 crink in order to move. These are made out of microtubules, which we have seen before. It goes wiggle, 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 Now we are on to lysosomes, which are like the stomach of the cell, and also the waste center, waste disposal of the cell. They contain little digestive enzymes inside. These little things fuse with other cells and start breaking them down with all the digestive enzymes they have. So it can either digest other cells for food, or it can digest old organelles and get rid of them. Now we are on to the extracellular matrix. It is a supporting structure that goes around the cell. It also helps with growth, and it determines much of the shape of a cell. In tissues, which are a bunch of similar cells put together to do a similar job, it takes up most of the space. It is an active component of the cell that is vital to its well-being. Now we are on to transport vesicles. They package stuff up and send them around the cell. They package them up and send them around the cell. They're used in taking proteins from an endoplasmic reticulum to the Golgi apparatus, and from the Golgi apparatus from one part of it to another, and generally spreading nutrients around the cell. Now we have the central vacuole, which stores materials and water and surround it in a membranous fluid. In plant cells, for those of you that want plant cells, it is often the largest organelle in the cell, pushing everything else in it to the outer sides of the cell near the cell membrane. It contains all those little materials and all of that stuff. Now we have the cell wall, which is mostly used in plant cells. It is a protective structure made of cellulose that surrounds the cell membrane. It is used for, again, protection and used for structure of the cell. It also helps in determining what goes in and out of the cell, although it's not as selectively permeable as a cell membrane is. Now, the cell membranes are guaranteed to withstand the pressure no matter what strikes it. Last but certainly not least, we have the ribosomes, which are one of the most important organelles in cells. They perform protein synthesis, and they take the instructions from the DNA, send them through them, and create proteins. They can either be free-floating or attached, again, to the endoplasmic reticulum stuck on. Without them, the cell could not perform many of their key functions. Most of that has to do with the proteins that these organelles synthesize. If you'd like to buy any of these products that we have shown here today, please call the number on the screen. And if you call now, you can get a discount up to 37.37999064321% off of your purchase, not including processing and handling. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our wonderful products that are essential to this basic cell life on Earth.